I mean, it's an incredible story, really, isn't
Yes.
it? And I think one that no human could ever conceive of, and that's what makes it so powerful. You know, we'd think of giving birth to a Superman or something like that. You know, it's just so different. And I love the idea too, Lisa. You mentioned about reading the Bible. We've not done that every year, but when we have done it, there's just something really beautiful and powerful, and we'll often do the thing like light the candle. Haven't done it in my togs, though, in a tent. I think that just sounds really great. Hi, Merry Christmas. My name's Di, and I'm with my good friends Kat and Lisa, and we are talking faith and Christmas. Now, when it boils down to it, the Christmas story is a faith story. It's the story of Jesus coming to earth, or God coming to earth in the form of a baby, and ultimately giving us the greatest gift of all. So let's talk about how we incorporate that faith element into Christmas, because it's easy to get carried away, isn't it, and kind of forget about it.
Yeah, so easy. But I think the clue's in the name.
Yeah.
Christ, Mass. You know, it started with the celebration, the gathering together, that mass of coming together and remembering Christ, baby Jesus, and the hope for all of humanity in him. So whenever I think of Christmas, I try to alter the pronunciation, especially when I talk to my kids and say, this Christ Mass, how are we going to remember the Christ in Christmas this year? Because I think with kids, it's fun, it's exciting, the prospect of gifts and presents, sometimes that can kind of preoccupy them and they lose focus of what it's really about. And, you know, the last thing you want on Christmas Day is a bunch of ungrateful kids because they're not happy with the gifts or the quantity of presents they've received.
Yeah. I mean, Lisa, this is a big part of our Christmas celebration, is remembering Christ and remembering that story.
Yeah.
Is this something that you're trying to incorporate or you've tried to over the years?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm all for celebrating, you know, but the main thing, like you say, is why do we celebrate Christmas? And right from when the kids are little, you know, you talk about the Christmas story. And back when my kids were little, a few years ago, there were nativities at church and school and assemblies where, you know, they would have the traditional, you know, Mary and Joseph, and my son was always sort of the sheep or the tree or something like that. And so very much as a Christian family, we were grateful for those other input areas. These days, I don't know if nativities happen so much within schools, so I was very grateful for that. But definitely the run up to Christmas, lots of carol services, and whether it's school or whether it's on the green or by the sea, or, you know, lots of advertisements for Christmas carols. And I've always loved that so many people in the secular part of society will go to carol service and sing Christian carols.
Or midnight mass.
Yeah. So I love that you have a lot of non-believers singing those beautiful words, remembering Jesus.
You've reminded me, because Christmas music, a lot of the Christmas carols that they play in the malls and in the shops leading up to Christmas time are actually worship songs, and I absolutely love that. It's so awesome that we get to put Christ on show for everyone.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's lovely, isn't it? And, you know, we've touched on some of those other traditions into the lead up to Christmas, but, you know, carol singing or Advent, you know, are these things that you guys do?
Carol singing, yes.
Yes.
They start in the malls in October, so I mean, to be honest, by Christmas Day I'm like, let's turn the music off. You know, a little bit over Santa Claus is coming to town. It's like, hurry up and come, then go. We can get back into the new year. But we were in a church for a few years that really was quite traditional and followed what the Church of England does, really, where Advent is you know, over several weeks before Christmas, and lighting candles, and it was quite traditional. And that was actually very beautiful because it brought in quite a lot of meaning that I hadn't known about before. And just that quiet, that stillness, lighting, you know, one of 4 candles, I think, before Christmas Eve. And that was actually very reflective, and I think it was really necessary because the lead up to Christmas is quite crazy in a lot of families, and there isn't a lot of time to reflect unless you actually make time.
Yeah, I think there's something about a candle that brings a certain amount of stillness. I don't know what it is. It's sort of the staring at the candle. And yeah, certainly I've been in a church tradition in the past where each week in the lead up to Christmas it would be a lighting of the Advent candle. Yes. And I think each represented, and I hope I get this right, joy, peace, love, hope. Not sure about the order there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was something really significant about lighting that, and often the kids would get involved and be the one that lit the candle. And even doing that at home, it sort of brings that stillness and reflection that I think sometimes the frenzy of Christmas we lose a little bit of, don't we?
I'd really like to bring that in. The Advent candle thing is not something that we've done as a family, but I really like the idea of introducing it this year. We do Advent calendars, and a few years it's been your classic, open the window, eat a chocolate. But more recently, I've been making homemade ones where we've got these little boxes, and then I just put like little treats in there. And I'm thinking this year I might do something a bit different with that and do a combination of a reverse Advent calendar, which I think was your idea actually, where you put aside an object to gift to a family in need. I like the idea of doing that with perhaps acts of kindness. So you write little messages, and each day you open it up and there's an act of kindness in there, and part of it's putting together a reverse Advent calendar, or perhaps doing something nice for somebody else. I really like that concept.
Yeah, we've got children. Your children are now teenagers and young adults, and I've got an almost 15-year-old, and you've got two primary-age children. How do we teach them about Jesus and the birth of Jesus at Christmas time? Are there sort of ways that we do this?
We've had a tradition since they were born, really. The night before, on Christmas Eve, we haven't done the service, but we have read from the Bible, and it's gone from the beginner's children's Bible with all the cute pictures with like one line on each page, and as they've got older, we've done read the appropriate level to them, and now obviously we still do that. We read the Bible, the whole story, right from when the angel comes to Mary, all the way through, and and that's quite special. My husband reads it, and I remember one really, really special Christmas a few years ago now. We were camping in New Plymouth. We were attending a family Christmas down there, and they didn't have literally any room in the inn, so we thought, let's take our tent and we can actually camp on the campsite on Christmas Day. And that was I wasn't quite sure how it was going to work, but the simplicity of it was so beautiful. The weather was great. We had this massive sort of Sleeps 15 tent. The 5 of us were there. And I just remember sitting on our chairs overlooking the sea, beautiful sort of mild, warm, evening. And and getting the Bible out and sitting outside the tent and reading the Christmas story. And there was just a simplicity, because obviously we'd driven there and we didn't have room for lots of gifts, and we were all sitting there in our togs, so there was nothing fancy about it. And I remember thinking, wow, this is actually really, really good.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I think the Christmas story never gets old, and the more you look into the details around it, the more magnificent it is.
Yeah.
And more recently, as my kids have gotten a little bit older, I've tried to talk about that with them. Mia, my eldest, she's 11 years old, and I said, do you realize that when Mary found out that she was going to have baby Jesus, she wasn't that much older than you. She was like 16, 17, like a young girl with this huge responsibility to play and bringing hope to the world. And when you think about that, you're like, wow. And then you think about the realities of giving birth in a stable. I mean, if you've ever been to a farm, it's a stinky, noisy place. It's not clinical. It's not clean like a hospital. Some of the nativity scenes that we see, like with these beautiful little figures, I mean, it's nowhere near as pristine and perfect as that. And then you think of just the response that Joseph had too, knowing that his wife, who is due to be married to, was carrying, his future wife, carrying a baby, and it was out of wedlock, and all the scandal, and how he just bravely accepted what the angel said. I think the more you think about it, the more you're like, wow. And so I guess with my kids, I hope that they capture that wow, that sense of awe, and how really out the gate God is.
Yeah. I mean, it's an incredible story, really, isn't it? And I think one that no human could ever conceive of, and that's what makes it so powerful. You know, we'd think of giving birth to a Superman or something like that. You know, it's just so different. And I love the idea too, Lisa, you've mentioned about reading the Bible. We've not done that every year, but when we have done it, there's just something really beautiful and powerful, and we'll often do the thing like light the candle. Haven't done it in my togs, though, in a tent. I think that just sounds really great. Let's go to another question now. How does your faith guide your generosity, or your approach to it perhaps, not only within your family, but also towards someone else over Christmas, maybe someone in need?
I mean, God loves a cheerful giver. We're not always cheerful when we give, but we should be.
Yeah.
But I think, part of being a Christian is having that spirit of generosity, and whether it's, as somebody's mentioned before, whether it's, you know, a financial cost to you, or whether it's baking, or whether it's something that's just a thoughtfulness, you know, like an act of kindness, Kat, like you were referring to. I think it's really important around Christmas to be generous in whatever way you can be generous, and there are lots of different ways.
Yeah, I think Christmas time is a doorway, an opportunity to invite people back into church. And I think as Christians we forget sometimes that there is a willingness and an openness in this time to be a part of that. So my encouragement and challenge to all of us would be to actually invite people back to church for Christmas.
I totally agree, Kat. I know that when we've been out of town visiting relatives who don't attend church at all, it's been a tricky one, because as a family we always go on the 25th, and it's been hard because you're actually a guest in somebody else's home, or you're staying in a tent in somebody else's, you know, town, and is that insensitive to just say, hey, we'll catch up with you later, we're off to church? But what we've done is, you know, you work out what the schedule is, when are we expected to be at a certain place, and then when you know what the timing is, we have often all over the place found a church, a local church, and we've just walked in on Christmas morning and just been really blessed by that, and really put that as first priority where we can. Sometimes it doesn't work, but you know, where you can, it's a real priority, and I think it's really important.
Yeah. I think something that I'm taking away from what you guys are saying, and gosh, there's so many things that I kind of want to steal, but really Christmas is a season. And I love the idea of kind of starting, so it's not all sort of banged or put into one little part of the Christmas season, but actually talking about it in the lead up, maybe watching different films that talk about Christmas, inviting others into our home and thinking about how we can be generous throughout the season and even beyond. It's been so good talking about faith. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Faith and Christmas. I look forward to the season starting.
Merry Christmas. Hey, it's been fun having you join us for the conversation today. If you'd like to check out more, go to rhema.co.nz.